What's going on, everybody? Week 2 is here. The DFS OGs podcast back in the house. I am Beer, joined by my fellow OGs, Notorious and Head Chopper. Guys, all kind of licking our wounds after week 1. I know it was a tough spot for all three of us. You know, a lot of different things we're going to talk about. Injuries, late scratches, DFS, sports betting. But we are here to rebound. So week 2 is upon us. I think we can just crumple up week 1 and move past it. But let me get to my guys here. Chop, let's start with you this week. And sometimes things go well opening weekend, as you know. I believe it was last season that you started off with a bang. And sometimes you have your weeks and you move on. So week 1, ready to move past and talk some week 2. How you doing, buddy?
Doing good. Yeah, that was arguably the worst weekend in DFS I've had in years and years and years. Like, it just started off bad. J-Mac challenged me to some college football game. Left me like 2 minutes. I'm not throwing him under the bus. I'm not making excuses, but left me like 2 minutes to try to put together a lineup. So I just picked one, and that started the weekend off bad on Saturday, and then that carried over to Sunday. Just, Kyle Shanahan ruined my whole Sunday when he scratched Trey Sermon. I was never going to play Mostert that much at all. Scratch Trey Sermon, then everybody says, "Oh, Mostert's the must-play now," and it makes sense. So, and I got caught on that guy for like almost everything, and he leaves after 4 plays. So, yeah, I just need that one. Just got to wash out of the memory bank and move on.
Yeah, the landmines were plentiful, Derek. Mostert was certainly one of them. Got off to a hell of a start. Like, okay, here we go. I did the same. Swapped to a lot of Mostert in a good matchup. But some of those value wide receivers we all thought were in good spots kind of crashed. My Green Bay Packers, your Jacksonville Jaguars. I mean, the list goes on and on of week 1 disappointments. So, again, ready to move past it here. But how are you? And hopefully your week 1 is a little bit better, at least, than Chop and I.
Yeah, ready to move past it because definitely my worst week 1 ever. FanDuel had a ton of James Robinson, Raheem Mostert, DraftKings, ton of those value wide receivers. And then Jalen Waddle and Jamar Chase go off. That was just so frustrating. But, yeah, and then it got even worse. The Jaguars got smoked by the Texans. And then in our bets, man, we got 3 right, me and Chop. And so, yeah, ready to move on, but had to take like 10 L's from last week.
I do appreciate the 5-point cushion in the betting contest from you guys. That I am about the only thing we did right, or I did right that last weekend. So thank you for that. We are sponsored as always by the fine folks over at FanDuel. Make sure you guys get over there and check out all the offerings, especially our special contest just for you guys. FanDuel.com/OG. They've scaled it back a little bit here. We didn't fill it. So I'm challenging you guys, if you hear me right now, go and get your entry in there. Only 500 spots available in this thing. And remember, this is going to go on every single week. It's a single entry contest, meaning everybody gets 1 entry, $7 buy-in, and we're going to track the standings all season long. You can find the standings on that page as well, FanDuel.com/OG. But first 500 people get their spots. We'll be giving some shout-outs here later in the show to the ones that did well in that contest. Certainly wasn't the 3 of us, so glad to see somebody do well and take us out, but we plan on bouncing back this week. Also, if you are listening, you're in the comment section. You want to talk about week 1, good, bad. You want to talk week 2, you want to talk life. We are here for you. We are looking at those comments, so get those in the comment section. If you're on YouTube, like, thumbs up, all the things over there. All right, guys, let's move past week 1. Normally we do a recap and what went right, what went wrong. We're not going to spend any time doing that. We're going to get right to the meat of things here, covering the main slate at week 2 with the main slate, and we won't cover Thursday tonight. Kind of a boring game, Giants and Washington, so we'll just skip right by that and cover these games on the main slate. So let's get to it. Derek, we're going to start with you here. Given our favorite bets, our favorite DFS plays over on FanDuel. So first game for us, we got San Francisco at Philadelphia. Now, Derek, 2 teams that played really well. San Francisco goes in and pretty much crushes Detroit like we thought. The Lions make it very interesting at the end of the game, but San Francisco holds on. Philadelphia goes into Atlanta and really makes a statement. Big-time win there behind Jalen Hurts. That offense putting up 30 points. The defense holding Atlanta under 10 points. So a very interesting game here, Derek. The story here, San Francisco running backs on that side of the ball. Obviously, the other side, Jalen Hurts, the story. But what do we do with Elijah Mitchell? He's going to be the hot waiver wire pickup here. I'm expecting Trey Sermon to be active again. So let's talk about this from a DFS perspective with the San Francisco backfield. How do you think this plays out? Is Mitchell a guy you want to play in DFS? Are you taking more of a hands-off approach? How are we handling this running back situation here for the 49ers this week?
Personally, I'm not going to overreact to week one. I know Sermon wasn't active, but I mean, he was the higher draft pick. I think he's going to be in the mix this week, like you mentioned. And yeah, I mean, Philly, they're much better up front than they are, in the secondary. So for me, it's going to be a hands-off week for Mitchell and Sermon. And then the passing game, I mean, Garoppolo, it's hard to trust him at all. Trey Lance is going to get his snaps and until they, kind of hand the reins over to him. Hard to trust any quarterback from San Francisco. Deebo Samuel had that big week one, but 50% target share, and that's not going to happen again. So maybe a few shares of Kittle. I know San Fran has a really high total. I just don't know, where those points are going to come from. The other side, I don't want to put, too much stock into how good the Eagles looked. It was against the Falcons. It was indoors. But yeah, I mean, their offensive line is the healthiest they've been in quite a while. Hurts has got that dual threat upside. So I think you can always play him. Even in tough matchups, they might be playing from behind in this one. I think the price point on FanDuel is more than reasonable. I'd rather go that route instead of targeting the running backs. And yeah, you compare him up with Devontae Smith. He kind of seemed to be, the wide receiver one there. So yeah, I have more interest in the Eagles, even though, I think the Niners are going to win this one.
All right, Derek, let's get your favorite bets as we do each and every week. We're each going to give our favorite bet from each and every game. So we're going to track it all season long. We got a little friendly competition amongst the three of us. So, Derek, we got San Francisco minus 3.5 here on the road. The total's sitting at 50.5.
I'm going to take the under. I think the Niners are going to want to run the ball, and we know the Eagles are going to run the ball a lot. So I'm going to take the under.
I am also on the under here in this game. Numbers seemed a little bit too high. I think it's a little bit of overreaction to Philly putting up 30. We know San Francisco, like you said, can slow the game down if need be. So under for me. As for DFS, I'm pretty much with you. I don't want to overreact to Elijah Mitchell. I think you're going to get a lot of season-long folks that they want to cram in a lineup. Just 5,800 here on FanDuel Chop. Are you with us on Mitchell? If your favorite bet here and anything else here, Jalen Hurts was pretty impressive here in week one. You're going back to the well here in week two.
No, I'm not going back to Jalen Hurts. I got a feeling that we're going to look back on Atlanta and say, wow, they were a really bad team. And, that's what Philly beat up on, was a really bad team, like a bottom ranked team. So I'm not impressed quite yet with Philadelphia. This is a much tougher matchup. So I don't want any Philadelphia people in my lineup. I mean, if I was going to stretch, 49ers secondary is their weakness, and they did lose one of the key guys to injury. So I get it, but I don't think Jalen Hurts is the guy to take advantage of it. So I don't want any Philly. 49ers are tough, man. Like Derek said, they're not going to get a 50% target share from Deebo again, but they're also doesn't look like they want to give Ayuk the reins just yet. So that's tough to pull the trigger there. And I'm not so convinced that it's Elijah Mitchell and then Jermichael Hasty, in that pecking order now that Mostert's out. I think we very well could see Trey Sermon active and see him do the exact thing that Mostert was going to do in week one before he got hurt. And Elijah Mitchell stay the exact same role that he was going to be in week one, which is spell Mostert every once in a while on offense, but get in there on special teams, maybe some third downs, but not like the anchor of the offense or anything like that. Trey Sermon could be the Mostert role now, and Elijah Mitchell could be the exact same as he would have been in week one. So I don't – all that leads to a lot of confusion that I'm just not certain I need to take advantage of this week. So I'm not on these guys in DFS. I'm torn between going Frisco or going the under. And so I just think ultimately the under is the play here. So I'm going under.
All right, starting the parlay card out early here. All three of us on the under in this game. And I agree with you. I think there may be a wake-up call to Sermon here. They get him inactive, and Mitchell's not a big guy. I don't see him being a workhorse running back. So I think you're going to see more Sermon. Could be a messy situation here for DFS. So all three of us on the under in that one. A couple shout outs. Marcus Scott, we appreciate the kind words in the chat. Glad to have you along for what, the 5th, 6th season here of the show. Dean's brother in the chat, so I'm glad Derek blocked him. We don't have to worry about him anymore. And anybody else have any comments on anything, please feel free to get it in the comment section. All right, next game, boys. Denver traveling to Jacksonville here. Chop, Denver looked great in that game against the Giants. Unfortunately, they lose Jerry Jeudy. So we saw Tim Patrick. Hamler almost had a big game. You have Sutton, you have Fant, so a lot of DFS options in the passing game. You also saw the Jaguars go to Houston, and we all thought that it was going to be different here under Urban Meyer. We should have known better. They go to Houston and get trucked. The stats look good for Lawrence at the end of the day, but some costly interceptions in that game. The James Robinson-Carlos Hyde split, kind of ugly here. So can we play anyone on the Jacksonville side? Does Denver roll here? We have Denver -6 on the road, total sitting at 45.5.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to Jacksonville. That's terrible. It's just terrible what they did let Houston do to them, of all teams, man. But
put it on the list.
Terrible. But yeah, I just I'm tough. I think maybe, I'm a Shark. I'm a DJ Shark guy. I always have been. So he didn't do anything to make me jump off that train here in week 1. I think a lot of people was thinking Chenault was going to be the guy, or maybe Marvin Jones Jr. Because he was working with Lawrence in camp so much with Shark hurt. But I think Shark's the best wide receiver they got. They didn't want to turn it loose on James Robinson. I guess all the doubters who thought Robinson was maybe getting pushed out by Carlos Hyde or whatever, or the coaching staff. By the way, the coaches, great hire, Derek. You guys had a great hire with Urban Meyer, man. My goodness, he's going to bail on you here. He's going to quit after. Oh, Derek just split on him. He didn't like it. I ran him off.
The show. Wow.
I ran him off, man.
Wow.
Urban won't be very long in Jacksonville. Derek's offended now. Sorry, Derek. You can come back to the show.
No, don't apologize. You're spitting truth here. The guy bails on us.
Yeah, I just can't trust Jacksonville right now. They got to show me something. So that offense against Denver, who I think is going to have a really good defense this year, don't want any piece of Jacksonville in this game. And Denver's not that. Running backs, I'm not going to trust Melvin Gordon. And the wide receivers, now that Judy's gone, yeah, they still want to they look like they still want to get the ball to Tim Patrick. I can't trust Tim Patrick in DFS. So I don't know if I could touch this game either, man. And the total on this game tells us something anyway. 45 in the NFL these days isn't very much. So I'm not sure I can touch anybody in DFS. But as far as this game, yeah, just because you got check down Teddy, and then you've got this Jacksonville offense that doesn't look all that great, I think I'm taking the under again on this game.
I'm with you on the under. Feels like a common theme here. We're gonna get to some games that have a bigger total. Derek, welcome back. We'll get to you here in a second. I guess the rule, Chop, we can't talk trash about Uncle Urban anymore. That's how it's gonna be. But I agree with you on the under here. That Jacksonville offense didn't look great. A lot of turnovers here. Now they're going to face a much better defense. And I know Denver dealing with some injuries. They lose Ronald Darby. That's going to help some of these Jacksonville receivers. But I just see this as an ugly, slow game. This Denver defense and their running game kind of controlling things. In DFS, I don't see a ton of plays here. I don't mind the DJ Chark thing. I actually like Tim Patrick a little more than you for some salary relief. Looked good even before the Jerry Jeudy injury, and a guy that's always kind of been a little bit underrated. So maybe him as a one-off. I'm not buying into Melvin Gordon here. Had one big run. Javonte Williams, I think, disappointed a lot of people. Maybe you go back to that well. But all in all, Derek, kind of ugly here. I'm on the under and not a ton in DFS for me. What are your thoughts here on the total, the spread, and the game here in general?
Yeah, Jags, absolute mess. You guys mentioned Urban Meyer likely going back to college football here sometime soon. And as of today, the Jags are now the odds-on favorites to have the number 1 pick in next year's draft. So I'm pretty already rooting for, an 0-17 season. But, yeah, that was ugly. Lawrence was fine. I know a lot of it was garbage time, but at least the numbers were there. Robinson did end up playing 63% of the snaps. So that's something to keep in mind. I'm not going to be playing him this week, but, he did have the bulk of the snaps compared to Hyde. So we know Urban Meyer says he wants to run the ball. Maybe this is the week Robinson gets back, but I don't think I can go back there I'm more of a Chenault guy. He's the cheapest of the three, and he's going to get a lot of those gadget plays, a lot of those underneath looks as well. This is a game they're going to be trailing, so I'll have a couple of shares of him. And then Denver side, yeah, I mean, definitely some value with the receivers, Sutton, Patrick, Hamler. Hamler's kind of their deep threat. And then I kind of like Patrick as well, but Noah Fant. I mean, I think he's a guy that you definitely need to look at. I was worried about him heading into the season. Bridgewater didn't target, his tight ends a bunch in Carolina, but he looked good in week 1, 8 targets, and you can definitely, beat this Jaguars defense in any way you want. So I'll look at him. And then 50-50 split for the running backs. I think I'll just avoid that for the time being.
All right, pick of the day here, Derek. What do you got? Denver -6, 45.5 on the total.
Man, I was ready to before I saw that the Jags were favored to be the number 1 pick. I was going to pick Jacksonville to bounce back here, but I can't do it. I'm going to take the over. I think there's just going to be some garbage time points.
All right, 2 on the under, 1 on the over. Let's move on to the next game. New Orleans traveling to Carolina. New Orleans coming off a big win against my Packers. Just absolutely smashed them behind Jameis Winston's 5 touchdowns. The offense didn't really have to do a whole lot here, so I wouldn't react to that number. It was under 150 passing yards here, but they get the big win, 38-3 against Green Bay. Carolina also looked good in the Sam Darnold Bowl, ended up staving off the Jets. Defense looked good. Christian McCaffrey's back, Derek. Weapons galore with DJ Moore, Terrace Marshall, Robbie Anderson catching a long touchdown. So a very interesting game here. 2 teams that look very good in week 1. How does this thing play out in week 2?
Yeah, 2 teams that did look good, and kind of a battle of the team jam-a-man running backs with Alvin Kamara, Christian McCaffrey. I think you can play both of them. I think you can stack both of them. The total doesn't look, as appealing as we might hope, but both these guys are going to play a ton, and both of them are going to have a ton of volume. If I'm choosing between the 2, I think I'll go with McCaffrey. He's still going to be, 90-plus snap share every single week. Kamara, he's going to have his big role as well, but just not an every down back. Tony Jones is going to mix in as well. And then for the Saints, I mean, Jameis Winston, 5 touchdowns on 20 attempts. I don't think we can expect that to continue. I think, that's going to cool off a little bit. And I don't really know who to pair him up with at this point. You got the 2 tight ends and Juwan Johnson, Adam Troutman. Marquez Callaway was kind of the preseason hype, the guy that let us all down last week. And then I think he had a catch on the first or second play of the game and didn't do anything after that. So, I don't really know where to go outside of Kamara and the Saints offense. And then for the Panthers, I don't really know what to do there either. DJ Moore looked pretty good. Robbie Anderson was kind of not used all that much, but I still think he's going to be fine in the long run. So I think most of my interest is going to be in these running backs.
Yeah, I'm with you. This is one of those games, Chop, I don't have a ton of interest in. That's the beauty of DFS. We can pick our spots here. Sure, you could throw a dart on Callaway having a bounce back here. A Terrace Marshall's only 5,000 on FanDuel. But to me, it's Christian McCaffrey if you can fit him. I don't hate Alvin Kamara, but I like McCaffrey a lot more this week. As for the game, I think Carolina plays well here. I'm going to take the 3.5 points here. I think they could win this game. The Saints feels like a letdown spot for them. Had a huge win against Green Bay, riding high. Now go in, divisional opponent. Carolina's defense looked great in that game against the Jets. So give me McCaffrey. And I also like the Panthers defense as a sneaky play here against Jameis Winston, who we know very turnover prone. We didn't see it in week 1, but I think that could rear its ugly head here in week 2. So give me the Panthers on the spread. Give me McCaffrey and the Panthers D in DFS. Chop, what do you got?
Well, I'll disagree with Derek in this one. I think that with this coaching staff and this offensive line, 5 touchdowns and 20 passes every game is very sustainable for Jameis. He's that good, all right? He's that good, man. So I like me some Jameis always. And I was just shocked. The shocking thing about the New Orleans game was it was their defense against Aaron Rodgers. The Packers never put a legitimate threat up there, and I don't know how that happened. There's so many. They got 2 or 3 of their best defensive linemen are suspended right now, and a lot of shuffling around in the secondary. I don't know how New Orleans did that. So I got to stick by what I believe in, and that this defense is going to not be as good for the first 6 or 7 weeks of the year. I think after they get past the bye week, they're going to start to ramp it up. But I just can't think. I think that was an anomaly. So I kind of like Carolina to score some points here. And there's a lot of different ways that just Sam Darnold could spread it out. He's got 3 different receivers. He got McCaffrey back there, so they're going to score points, I think. And New Orleans, I think also Jameis just wasn't really he didn't have to throttle it up with the yardage and stuff. They gave him really good field position. He took advantage of it. I don't think you saw a lot of Callaway because, well, he was matched up against one of the best guys in the league in the secondary. So I think they kind of went in knowing they weren't going to throw to him that much. So I'm looking for him to kind of bounce back. I like the offenses here, so I got to take the over here.
All right, Derek, what was your pick on this? We got New Orleans minus 3.5, 44.5 on the total.
I like Carolina plus 3.5.
All right, moving on. Next game, we have the Rams minus 4 traveling to Indy. The Rams look great at home Sunday night against the Bears. Pretty much did what they thought we would do here in that game. Indianapolis got trucked by Seattle. A lot of issues on that offensive line. Offense didn't look great. Seattle was able to do whatever they wanted offensively here. So, Chop, let's stay with you here. Feels like a game the Rams should win pretty easily, or do you expect this Colts team to bounce back and play better here at home against the Rams?
I expect them to play well, but it's just one of those things in the schedule. You got 2 incredibly tough games to start off the year. It's like, as I was looking at the Cowboys schedule, you start off on the road in Tampa, and then this week, we'll talk about it later, you're going to go on the road to the Chargers. It's not, there's no shame in starting 0-2. Like if the Colts, there's no shame in, these 2 games right here. So I expect them to play well, but I just, it's a tough matchup. The Rams defense, very, very good. Carson Wentz, I don't know, maybe he's still a little bit hurt in that foot, and the mobility didn't look all that great in week 1. So I'm a little worried right there. Worried about what I saw from the Colts offense. I can't really play a guy against the Rams defense. It just doesn't. The Rams seem to now. David Montgomery surprised the heck out of me, and he ran loose he got loose on the Rams defense. So maybe there's something to Jonathan Taylor. Maybe that's a good GPP dart throw. But realistically, in any kind of significant money on the line, I can't play any Colts guys here. And the Rams, I think, as long as we're in the beginning of the year here, the offensive line is healthy, the defensive line is healthy, and Matthew Stafford is healthy, I think the Rams are going to roll until some injuries start to set in. So I don't mind the passing game here. Pick and choose. Last week it was Kupp. Very well could be Robert Woods this week. But I'm going with the Rams here.
I also like the Rams here. I just think it's a clear mismatch.
You're going to shadow all my picks now, so I can't catch up to you all year long.
Well, that's the way to win, right? Easy. I block you out, and so it's like the box out shop. You're the smaller guy, so I'm keeping you off the boards here. But love the Rams in this spot. In fact, some of my favorite plays on the week are from this Rams team. I think Matthew Stafford's in another incredible position. Didn't really have to do a whole lot against Chicago. Was very efficient running this offense. Weapons galore. We saw Cooper Kupp have a big game. Tyler Higbee looked great. I think those guys are both fantastic plays, but I really like the guy you kind of mentioned there at the end, Chop. Robert Woods, I think, will be a forgotten man in DFS. So Cooper Kupp, very cheap across the industry, very cheap on both FanDuel and DraftKings. I think he'll be the one that people gravitate towards. But the beauty of a Matthew Stafford, there's a lot of different ways that you can stack him and double stack him with these weapons. And we saw Russell Wilson, Lockett, Metcalf all get there against this defense. I think it happens here again. So love Stafford, love Woods. I don't mind Kupp and Higbee either here, Derek. So a lot of ways that you can go with this offense. The Colts side of things, where do we run it back? I mean, if you're on the Rams, do we go back to Michael Pittman, who was a big disappointment last week? Do we go with a guy like Jonathan Taylor against this Rams front? Or do we just roll out our Rams and not worry about a run it back option here with the Colts? Maybe it's Zach Pascal. Give me something here on the Colts side.
I'm not going to play any of those guys. The guy that I like on the Colts to run it back is Paris Campbell. He is their slot receiver. He's going to avoid Jalen Ramsey and those guys on the outside. I think they're going to be trailing in this one. So, I like Paris Campbell a little bit, 4,900 on FanDuel. Not a ton of interest, in Wentz and Taylor. I'm definitely going to keep an eye on their offensive line. Both their tackles are banged up, listed as questionable. So we know that's been their strength the last couple of years. And then the other side, you guys mentioned it, everyone's just too cheap for the Rams. You can play Stafford, you can play Kupp, you can play Woods. We know that tight ends historically very good against the Colts because they like to keep everything in front of them. We saw Everett, pay off last week, scored a touchdown against them. So, yeah, I like all those guys. And then Darrell Henderson played 94% of the snaps. I think he had the third highest snap share of any running back in the NFL in week 1. We kind of thought Sony Michel was going to have a big role, but clearly not the case. So if everyone's going to be playing this passing attack, I don't mind taking a few shares of Henderson, and you can pair him up with the defense too.
Yeah, he's too cheap as well. I don't know what the Rams did to piss off these DFS sites, the Sunday night pricing maybe, but yeah, Henderson. I think Michelle eventually gets worked in. I don't know that it's here in week 2. So Henderson too cheap. Rams D in play. Noto, what's your pick here on the game? Rams -4 and 47.5 on the total.
I wish the spread was 3, but I'm going to take the Rams.
All right, another addition to the parlay card. So far, we have under in the San Francisco Philly game, and now the Rams -4. So I'll keep updating those as we go and see what kind of parlay we can build here in our bounce back week 2. Next game, guys, Cincinnati and Chicago. Chicago -3 at home here. Total sitting at 45.5. The Bears, we just talked about it, just did not look great. Derek, it's only a matter of time before Justin Fields come in. I don't know if it happens here in week 2, but Montgomery about the only bright spot for the Bears. Cole Kmet did get a lot of targets. I think he's a decent cheap tight end option here this week. As far as Cincinnati, big win at home against Minnesota. We saw all the preseason. Jamar Chase is terrible. He doesn't know what the football looks like. He can't catch it. Yada, yada, yada. Comes out, has a big game. Joe Burrow looks good. Joe Mixon looks like a workhorse at a discounted price here. So I'm going to go first here, Chop, just to prevent your little conspiracy theory. I'm going over on this game. The total seems a little bit too low here. I think Cincinnati can do their damage offensively. We just mentioned all the weapons there. I think T. Higgins a nice bounce back option here. And in the Bears side, I think you're going to start to see a lot of Allen Robinson, Darnell Mooney in a good spot against this secondary. I mentioned Kmet. I think there'll be more scoring than what this total indicates. So give me the over, Derek. I really like this game for DFS. Not one of those 50-point games we're going to talk about, but one of those that's under the radar. I don't think a lot of people are going to be attacking this week.
Yeah, for sure. And, all of Twitter seemed to agree that when the Bears were down 20, why did they keep putting Andy Dalton out there? It was a perfect time to give Fields some run. I didn't understand it. He's still going to get a few snaps here and there. But for now, you can't play Dalton because, Fields could always come in and take over for a few plays or even just take over, forever. So can't play Dalton, but I do like Allen Robinson. He's going to get those targets each and every week. And I'm just going to play him every week in MME because, he's never a guy that's going to garner a lot of ownership. The running backs are kind of tough. Montgomery looked really good, but Williams played over 40% of the snaps. So that worries me a little bit. Don't mind the Kmet call. And then on the other side, yeah, man, Jamar Chase. I bought into all the offseason reports and didn't play him at all in week 1. I played the other rookie receivers that didn't do anything, but Chase went off, led the team in snaps, receiving yards, and targets. And he's only 5,500, so he's still the cheapest of the 3. I think it'll probably be the last week that we see that. But any week, these guys could mix in. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if Higgins led the way or Boyd led the way. And like you mentioned, Mixon's always a good bet on volume type of running back. Don't mind him in any format. So agree with you, Bear. I think it's a good game to target for DFS despite the fairly low total. And give me the Bears. I think they bounce back, and it's going to be another week until we see Fields at least.
All right, Chop, chance for you to differentiate here. I'm going over. Derek's on the Bears. Best bet here. And then DFS, what are you doing in this one?
Yeah, for DFS, so if the Chicago Bears are like an 8-8 team or 9-8 team or 10-7 team, if they have any kind of thoughts that maybe we could sneak in the playoffs, it's got to be on defense because it's certainly not on offense. So they've got to be a decent defensive team. I don't know if they are or not. I got to think that probably the Rams offense is just really good and just kind of made them look foolish sometimes on Sunday night. So I'm still a believer in the Bears defense being decent. And so for that reason, I'm not really sold on Cincinnati going on the road here. I kind of don't want to mess around with that offensive line. Maybe they'll prove me wrong after this game and, they're much improved and all that other good stuff. But for those reasons, kind of out on Cincy. And for Chicago, like Derek said, can't play a quarterback here. I kind of like David Montgomery because that game script was terrible for him against the Rams, and he still broke some long runs against a pretty tough defense. if he can do that against the Rams, I got to think he can probably get loose against the Bengals. So like me some David Montgomery, and Allen Robinson's in a good spot here. So with all that being said, it kind of shapes up to where I'm on Chicago here. Got to go with Chicago here.
Yeah, as far as the Bengals defense, not a lot of major improvements. They gave up the 8th most fantasy points to running backs. So don't hate the Montgomery call at all. So another Chicago pick. So Derek and Chop both on Chicago. I will take the over. And on to our next game, Buffalo -3.5, traveling to Miami. Chop. Total at 47.5 in this one. Kind of a tale of two teams. Buffalo kind of stumbles at home and loses to Pittsburgh. Miami, big road win in New England. Kind of an ugly game like we thought it would be, but Miami pulls out the win here. So betting-wise, what do you like? And in DFS, do we go back to Josh Allen, to Stephon Diggs, who had a rough game in that opener? Miami side, they get Will Fuller back here. The backfield looks like a mess. Pretty much a stay away for me. Just so many pieces. Jalen Waddle looked good. Do we trust that? A lot of interesting factors here in this game, Chop. So favorite bet, DFS-wise, what do you got here? Buffalo and Miami.
So for DFS, it's interesting that Buffalo is was a lot of sneaky picks for the Super Bowl contender this year, Buffalo, and they could very well start off 0-2 because Miami's a legit team, man. They're really solid on defense, good coaching, and they'll go as far as Tua can take them. And sometimes he looks good, sometimes he's terrible. So we'll see which one we get here. But Buffalo, I got a feeling their offense rebounds, sort of. Like, I don't know how much stock I can put into going against Miami because Miami is a really good defense, I think. So I don't know, man. Josh Allen's always a guy you can play and pair him with Diggs, and you never know. Miami on the flip side, I don't want to mess with a running back. Tua's like, maybe. I guess the guy I got my eye on here is Jalen Waddle, just because I think he's going to be able to avoid whatever tough matchups there are, and he's going to be Tua's first look most of the time, and that's very key with Tua is the first guy he's going to look at. If that guy's open, then both of those guys are going to thrive, the first look and Tua. So I'm on that one right there. For a pick, I got to give a pick. Man, I just can't see Miami at home being this good of a team and being more than a field goal underdog. So give me Miami.
We're on the same one again, Chop. And I even put mine on the sheet first. If you'd like to track along, know that I'm not.
I don't want to be tainted. I don't want to be tainted.
I like the Dolphins here again. I think they're a better team than what people are giving them credit for. The defense looks solid. Now it was Mac Jones led Patriots team, and he'll eventually be a little bit better. But to go on the road and win, and now be a 3.5-point underdog at home, I know a lot of it's overreaction to Buffalo. They will bounce back, no doubt. But I think Miami can keep up offensively here, Derek. So not a ton I like DFS-wise. I think this may be a lower scoring game. I thought about the under here. I do think Allen bounces back, but give me Miami for sure. And DFS, I do like the Waddle call. Outside of that, I'm pretty much out in this game. So where do you come out? Spread, total, and DFS, what are you doing here?
Full fade for me on Miami when it comes to DFS. Wouldn't surprise me to see Tua have a decent game, but just too many guys. I want to see how Will Fuller looks in his first game with the team. You mentioned the running back spot's pretty much a mess. Gaskin only played 53% of the snaps. I will have a bunch of interest in Josh Allen, though. He's just too cheap. I mean, $8,100 for a guy that can, run for 50 yards and throw for 300 more. I like that. He put up 417 and 4 touchdowns in his one full game against Miami last year. So I'm not worried about the matchup. Love pairing him up with Diggs. 7,500 on FanDuel. I mean, love that price point. Still had 14 targets last week. So that'll be one of my more popular stacks. And I'm going to go against you guys, and I'm going to take Buffalo, try to make up some ground here.
Any worry about Xavier Howard on the other side, Derek? Some people put some weight into these corners, some do not. Thoughts there?
Diggs is one of those guys that I don't worry about. He moves all over the field. He's so shifty. Some of these bigger receivers that, just run straight lines, they worry me more when it's the wide receiver cornerback matchups. For Diggs, I think Allen's going to trust him and give him a bunch of targets regardless.
All right, there you go. Let's stay in the AFC East here. Next game, New England coming off that home loss to Miami, traveling to New York to take on the Jets. In New England, -5.5 point favorites here, Derek. Low total at 42.5. So Two teams that kind of struggled out of the gate. Again, Mac Jones looked pretty good here. Aguilar has a big game. Jacoby Myers was decent. Damian Harris, costly fumble there. So some talk about are they going to rearrange that New England backfield, so we can discuss that. Jets side was pretty ugly most of the way. They ended up scoring some points towards the end, but very disappointing day from Elijah Moore. Mentioned him in the opening. Could have had a much better game. The running back looks like a three-headed monster. Zach Wilson kind of struggled. The lone bright spot there, Corey Davis, who we saw in preseason, garner a ton of targets. That doesn't look like it's going to change. So I do like him here. New England, I'm having a hard time finding everybody, even in a good matchup here with the Jets. Do we trust this running back rotation? Do we trust these receivers? So betting pick, what do you got DFS-wise? Where are we going in this one?
Yeah, honestly, I don't have a lot of interest in either side. Corey Davis did have the big blow-up week in week 1, but Jameson Crowder is supposed to be back. Keelan Cole could be back as well, so want to see how they mix into this. Three-way share in the backfield for the Jets, and yeah, I mean, Wilson's cheap, but he didn't have a single rushing attempt other than the 2-point conversion. So I want to see him, be a little bit more of a dual threat quarterback before I go to him in DFS. Other side, I could maybe go to Damian Harris a little bit on a side like FanDuel where touchdowns are a little bit more important. He's going to be a threat to rush for 100 yards every week. But that's about it. I mean, the Patriots have some decent receivers. Mac Jones looked pretty good in week 1, but you just never know where it's going to come from. And I think there's just better options.
All right, betting pick. What do you got here?
I am going to take – oh, man, it feels gross taking the Jets, but I'm going to take Jets 5.5.
All right, I'm going the under in this one. When I can't find anything I like fantasy-wise and I'm expecting it to be an ugly, gross kind of game, Chop, it lends me to take the under here. So even at a low 42.5, this feels like one of those 17-13, one of those type games. It's just ugly in this one. So give me the under here. I think both defenses are in play. I know we had a comment, Marcus Scott in the chat talking about the Jets D. I think that's a smart way to go. Cheap defense against the rookie there in Mac Jones. So I'm going under here, Chop. Derek and I have no interest DFS-wise. Any more optimism on your side?
No, not for DFS. The Jets are a complete avoid here for me. And the Patriots, the way they're going to spread it out, the only guy that I have interest in, I take it back. Maybe Mac Jones, if you really need to save a little money, a little bit of Mac Jones. But otherwise, Jonnu Smith, I think, is going to maybe erupt here one of these weeks. And so I like him. I like him in this matchup. But, yeah, my pick right here is I feel good about this one. New England. I think New England really stomps them. I think that the Jets will struggle to score points, period, struggle to put the ball in the end zone, barring like a fluky play, a home run to Corey Davis or something. So not very many points for the Jets, and the Patriots are going to throttle them. So I like the Patriots.
All right, moving on. Next game, we have Houston, who shocked the world. I don't know anybody outside. I don't think anyone outside of Derek and our parlay really cared that much about that game. But Houston puts it on the Jacksonville Jaguars. Got to give them credit for that. But now a big test, traveling to Cleveland here, 12.5 on the spread in this one. So a big number there, 48.5 on the total. Had breaking news a few hours ago. Odell Beckham already announced out for this week 2 game here for Cleveland. So looks like it'll be the Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt show. Jarvis Landry, obviously, we saw guys like Anthony Schwartz mix in. The tight ends look good here. Chop. So a lot of ways you can go with Cleveland, but is that a concern as well? Very big team total here. This game could get out of hand. So anyone standing out as a must-play options on the Cleveland side? And then can we do anything with Houston? I mean, much tougher matchup here. Tyrod Taylor looked good. Mark Ingram had 500 carries, but they did work in 4 different running backs here. And Brandon Cooks looked good at receiver. So I'm going to make my pick here first here, Chop. I think Cleveland absolutely rolls in this game. So I'm not buying that week 1. Spirited performance by Houston, no doubt. But now going on the road against a much better team, a much tougher environment, obviously, than being at home, and a much, much, much better defense. I think Cleveland runs away with this one. So give me Cleveland on the betting markets. I like Chubb. I like Hunt. I think Landry's definitely in play as well with Baker Mayfield. So Cleveland onslaughts for me here, Chop. What do you got?
Yeah, for DFS, just the backfield. I think it could be one of those games where Chubb gets there and Kareem Hunt gets a lot of carries too, and he gets there. So I'm a little leery of the passing game because I don't think they're going to need to be out there on the field passing the ball too much in the second half. So, Jarvis Landry could always come out in the first quarter and put them up 14-0 with 2 touchdowns. And then all of a sudden you're going, damn, no Jarvis, no cash. Could happen. But I'm going with the backfield here. Both of them I think are in play. And for that reason, I got to go with the Browns too.
Yeah, Jarvis, a lot more interesting on, say, a DraftKings, where you get that full PPR and take advantage of what he's going to do. FanDuel half-point PPR, I don't hate him there, but I'm with you. It feels like one of those games you could play both of those guys in one lineup. We've seen that win, not a lot, but it's a very unique build here. And if this game gets out of hand, maybe they turn the keys over to Kareem Hunt after Chubb already has his 2 touchdowns, Derek. So thoughts here? Any more optimism on Houston? 0 for 2 so far between us two.
Yeah, Derek D in the chat. Great first name, by the way. He says the Tyrod to Cook stack could be sneaky. It will be sneaky. I just don't know if it'll be a good one. I just can't imagine that they're going to be a good football team. I know they look good against my Jaguars. I think anybody would at this point of the season. So, yeah, full fade for me on Houston side. Love Cleveland. Love Nick Chubb. There's a few weeks a year that I play him just because he's not very involved in the passing game. This is one of them. Cleveland was number 1 in adjusted line yards last week. Houston's defensive line was 30th. So he's just going to have huge holes to run through all game. Love pairing him up with the Browns defense. And I will also take the Browns to cover the 12.5. And if you're doing a teaser, 6-point teaser, get them down to 6.5. I mean, come on.
There you go. Gotta love that. So add them to the parlay card here. We have Cleveland minus 12.5. We have the Rams -4 and under in the San Francisco Philly game. So 3-teamer so far. Love that teaser call as well. So we'll finish out the early games here, and then we'll give some shout outs. We'll take a look at the week 1 DFS OGs contest over at FanDuel. If you want to play this week, make sure you go and secure your entry, FanDuel.com/OG. Just 500 spots available. You play against us, and there's a big $5,000 first place prize to whoever puts up the 10 highest scores. You don't have to play every week. You can have a few down weeks like we did in week 1, and you're still in the running for some free money from FanDuel. So best way to thank those folks over there and support the show, go get your entries in today, just $7. So we'll take a look at week 1's best performers after we cover this last early game, Derek. We have the Raiders coming off an epic win there in a crazy ending in that one, beating Baltimore in overtime. They thought they had the walk-off with Bryan Edwards scoring that touchdown. Everybody's leaving the field. Nope, come on back. Carr throws an interception. Felt like the Ravens were going to go down and win, but Lamar turns it over. The Raiders finish that off. So big win for them. Pittsburgh goes on the road to Buffalo, gets a big win there as well. So a very interesting game here, Derek. DFS-wise, tough matchup here for Darren Waller. We saw him have 1,000 targets in that week 1 game, but Pittsburgh, traditionally one of the better teams against the tight end position. So for me, it's a Najee Harris spot. I think a lot of people are going to jump off board after week 1. It was very popular in DFS, kind of disappointed, but played every single snap for this team. A home game against a Raiders defense that looked a little vulnerable against the run. Give me Najee Harris in DFS here. Still working on my pick. Actually, you know what? I'm going to go with Pittsburgh as well. Give me Pittsburgh -5.5. So, Derek, over to you. Steelers, Raiders.
Najee Harris, favorite running back play of the week, not particularly close. You mentioned 100% of the snaps. Amazing matchup at home. Le'Veon Bell roll. I love him this week, and he's far too cheap across the industry. I think he's probably going to get some steam. He'll probably be popular because he's going to project well in all the models. But, yeah, one of my favorite plays. I think you can pair him with the defense. I'm also on Pittsburgh -5.5. The Raiders, I mean, they're just one of those teams that they're going to show up 3 or 4 weeks a year. They're going to get some upsets. And then the rest of the games, they're just going to look terrible. I don't trust them here on the road. Short week for them, too. So, yeah, pretty easy fade for me on the Raiders side. The backfield's kind of a split. I'll probably have a little bit of exposure to Darren Waller. I still think the volume's going to be there. Tough matchup for sure. And then if I'm choosing one of these 3 receivers, I think I'll go Deontay. He's just that guy that's always going to get the targets. You know, Claypool led the team in air yards, so I think you can look at him in tournaments as well. But for me, mostly Najee, Steelers defense. I think they're going to win this one pretty easily.
Yeah, agreed. I love the pairing with Steelers defense. I prefer Claypool here on FanDuel. We know touchdowns carry a lot more weight than receptions. I think Deontay feels more like your PPR guy. We had a comment, Derek D in the chat shop, talking about Bryan Edwards, and it looked good in the fourth quarter. I mean, finally started making some plays here. And if they are going to take Waller out of the game, maybe he's the guy. But are you buying this small sample size, or are you just avoiding the Raiders here in this one?
I'm avoiding the Raiders based on the matchup. I typically don't want to stuff guys in there against the Steelers defense because, as being pointed out in the chat right now, they may have the best defense in the NFL. If not, they're very, very close. They're just really good. So I don't really want the Raiders. Any of that in DFS. For the Steelers, I like the receiving core. Pick one. Like you guys said, I'm down with that. I don't have as much love for Najee. This could be his big game. I think he's going to have like maybe 3 games this year where he scores touchdowns, maybe multiple touchdowns, and does well. And this could be it against the Raiders. But in general, I'm not high on Najee at all behind a bad offensive line. So I'll have a little bit, but definitely nothing over the field, probably under the field. But with all that being said, the Raiders, short week on the road now to Pittsburgh against that kind of a defense, coming off that jubilation of a win on Monday night against the Ravens. No, Steelers are going to smash them. I got to take the Steelers too.
All right, that's 4 now. Parlay
parlay.
cards.
You might want to split these into 2 3-teamers or something like that.
You might want to do one of them round robin deals and have them mix up with each other. The teaser here, Derek's another one. You're basically just getting it down to Pittsburgh for the win. So 4 teams on the card. Yeah, you'll have to be selective here. We don't want a 10-team parlay. Never a good idea, but generally pretty good. And we're all on the same page here. So let's take a look back real quick at some of the best finishers in our FanDuel OGs tournament. Again, FanDuel.com/OG, just 500 spots available. We'll be taking a look at the results each and every week. There's cash prizes in the weekly tournaments as well. We had a $1,000 winner, $500. So you get that plus the chance to win some money at the end. So 5th place, shout out my R Jimmy 3. Went with the Carolina stack. Darnold, McCaffrey, DJ Moore ran it back with Corey Davis, had some Nick Chubb. So great lineup there, 152.56. 4th place, Bucks _9, 153.48. Had Mahomes and Kelsey and Tyreek Hill. Felt like you had to have that stack. So really survived a James Robinson, Raheem Mostert backfield on the back of his Chiefs stack. So 4th place there, $425. Hapa 00, 3rd place finisher, $250. Again, another Darnold McCaffrey stack. Survived a few landmines himself. Anthony Ferkser let him down a little bit. Terry McLaurin, just an 8 spot. So 3rd place finisher there. Troll 7419, our 2nd place finisher behind the back of guys like Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins. Had Lockett, had Thielen, had Kelsey. So hit on a lot of guys that did well. And our big winner ran away with this thing, guys. It wasn't even close at $169.68, $1,000 in the bank account of Boss Boyd. Huge score here. Mahomes, Hill, Lockett, Deebo Samuel was huge for him. Nick Chubb and Miles Sanders. So a big, big day for Boss Boyd, absolutely destroying this thing, winning by over 14 points. So congratulations to him. Set himself up pretty well in the season-long leaderboard. But again, join us. The 3 of us are in there. We'll be hoping for a much better performance next week, but a fun contest nonetheless. So we'll be shouting out some of the best performers as we go along each and every week, along with checking on those season-long standings as we go. So come along and play with the OGs. All right, guys, next game, Minnesota at Arizona. Cardinals 4.5-point favorites here. Big total here, Chop, at 51. The Cardinals look fantastic in Tennessee on both sides of the ball. I mean, defense, we saw Chandler Jones wreak havoc. Offensively, Kyler Murray goes nuts. Hopkins, 2 touchdowns. Kirk, 2 touchdowns. Edmonds looks great as a PPR option. On the other side, Minnesota kind of struggled in Cincinnati. It's come down to the end, but big numbers out of Adam Thielen in that one. So what do we do here, Chop? This one feels like a shootout. I'm putting my pick on the board here first. I'm going over the 51 here. I think both teams score a lot of points in this one. Definitely a game I think you can stack a lot of different ways with Cousins, Jefferson, who may be the forgotten option here, and then all them options on the Arizona side. So Over for me here, Chop. Stackable game in DFS. What are you doing?
Yeah, I think most of the time this year when Arizona plays, it's going to be just we don't have a lot of time to spend on it. Just play everybody in the game when Arizona plays. They're going to be high pace, a lot of plays, and they're going to score points, and they're going to give up points, a lot of them. So, DFS wise, anybody's in play in this game. So as far as a betting pick, it's tough. I'm down. I'm torn between two picks here. So I like the over also, but there's a path here where maybe Minnesota tries to keep Kyler off the field a little bit, and maybe they can get Dalvin Cook going, and so that eats up the clock a little bit, and we get the under here. But I think for my betting pick here, I think Minnesota getting more than a field goal. I think that's where I want to go. I think Minnesota's a better defense than what they showed last week, and Cardinals are always erratic. Just because they look good one week, you know how they did last year, they would come back the next week and look terrible. So I think I'm going to take Minnesota to rebound here and stay within the spread.
All right, going with the underdog Vikings. Derek, a very fantasy-friendly game. So who are you targeting here and your favorite bet from this one, Vikings and Cardinals?
Yeah, like Chop mentioned, you can play pretty much anyone here, but the guy that I really like is Justin Jefferson. I hope everyone kind of sees, the Titans didn't get much going. A.J. Brown, Julio Jones didn't get anything going pretty much in this matchup. But Tennessee's offensive line was just so bad. I think Minnesota will be able to hold up a little bit better against Arizona. And we know their secondary is just terrible. They lost their best cornerback right before the season started to retirement. So I think Justin Jefferson has a big game here. If I'm going to Thielen, Dalvin, you could even mix in some Conklin. He played 71% of the snaps. And obviously on the other side, you're playing Kyler with DeAndre, and Rondale Moore only played 29% of snaps. So that's something to keep an eye on. But when he's on the field, they're trying to get him the ball as much as they can. So you can play everybody in this game. And for a betting pick, I'm going to take Arizona. I really liked what I saw last week. And historically, they've been very good at covering the spread at home.
A lot of KJ Osborne chat in the chat, Derek. Any interest there as a flyer? We saw him get 9 targets last week. Looks like they may have a third option, which they've never really had before. So are we buying into KJ Osborne here pretty cheap across the industry?
I don't know. It feels like the flavor of the week for me. I'm just going with the guy I know can ball out, and that's Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, I agree. I like Jefferson a lot here. I think a lot of people are going to go to Thielen. He's cheaper. The recency bias, I think Jefferson gets a ton. Chop, any interest in KJ Osborne, or are we just getting a little too cute with that one?
I don't have any interest. The one thing I would say is maybe that happened because Justin Jefferson isn't 100% yet from the injury he suffered in preseason. Maybe that's why we saw both of those things happen. Jefferson not do so well and Osborne do well. So if that's the case, then obviously he'd be a good play, but I'm gonna stick with the big ones here: Thielen and Jefferson and Cook.
All right, moving on. We got another big spread here, Derek. We have Atlanta, who again got trucked at home by Philadelphia. Only put 6 points on the board. Now your consolation prize is you get to travel to Tampa Bay, take on the Super Bowl champs here. Tampa minus 11.5, 51.5 on the total here. So, Derek, what do we do with this Atlanta offense? And they just look terrible. Pitts was highly owned. The usage was certainly there. I don't mind going back to the well on him. You can certainly throw against this Tampa Bay team. Ridley had a down game. Those are pretty much the only two guys I really like here. Tampa Bay side, I'm very interested in Mike Evans. And I'm an Antonio Brown guy. He went off last week. Godwin went off last week. You got to think they want to get Mike Evans going here. 32.5-point team total here, Derek. I think Mike Evans is going to be the forgotten man in DFS this week. One of my favorite wide receivers, I think, will very much be off the radar here. So give me Evans here. As far as a betting pick, I'll go first here again. I think this one stays under. I think Tampa Bay gets out to a lead, can run the ball with Ronald Jones if he's back in good graces. Apparently he's starting again. Leonard Fournette. I don't know if this Atlanta offense is going to be able to put a ton of points on the board. So hopefully not recency bias here, but I'm going to go under this 51.5, Derek. What do you got?
Love the Mike Evans call. He kind of got the Diggs treatment against the Cowboys, who's a pretty good cornerback. And I don't think Atlanta has anybody In their secondary, they're going to be able to stick on Evans. So I like him to bounce back. But each and every week, it could be any one of these three guys. It could be Brown again, could be Godwin again. If you're building a bunch of lineups, makes sense to get exposure to all of them. But I agree, I'll probably have more Evans than anybody else. I was definitely wrong about Gronkowski. I thought they were going to ease him back into action. Ended up playing like 90% of the snaps. Had a huge role in week 1. I won't be going back to that well, but I was definitely wrong about that. You can play Brady, but I don't know if they're really going to need to air it out here. And I'll probably just continue to avoid the running backs for now. Fournette had a 64% snap rate, but anytime you trust a Tampa Bay running back, Arians just goes and pulls a fast one on you. And then the other side, I like what you said. You can throw on this Tampa Bay team. Dallas didn't even try to run the ball. They were using Zeke as sort of an extra offensive lineman in there. And so I think Ridley's going to be interesting after his down week, and I think Pitts is going to be interesting. They're going to be trailing the whole game. So I think they're both excellent tournament plays, especially if you're looking to stack up Tampa.
Yeah, definitely want to run it back on this one. I don't know how many points they score, but they're going to be in passing mode the whole game here, Chop. So Tampa Bay, it's, again, hard to predict those wide receivers. I think Evans bounces back, but I think there's room for a bunch of these guys to be double stacked with Brady and have a big game. Do you prefer Ridley? Do you prefer Pitts? Are you on neither here against this defense?
Well, I would say that as far as the Tampa wide receivers, I'm with you guys. Mike Evans, I think this just feels like a classic bounce back for him and to make him a little bit happy this week because I think they're going to be able to do whatever they want. And I think they're going to usually save Gronk for the big games, the really tough games that mean a lot. And this isn't one of them, so I can mark him off my list pretty comfortably and then stick with the wide receivers because the running backs, it's hard to trust any of those guys. So I think Mike Evans is a guy, and I'm more of a Ridley guy than Pitts. Pitts really has to show me something more than he did against Philly. He looked like a rookie tight end, and that's kind of the knock on him coming into the season is rookie tight ends don't perform all that great, so he's got to get it together. But, if Matt Ryan struggled with the Philly defensive line, wait till he gets a hold of this Tampa defense. This is going to be ugly. I think this is brutal. I got to give me some Tampa Bay minus the points.
Tampa Bay. Derek, what was your pick on this one?
I'm going to take the under.
All right, under for you and I. Tampa Bay minus 11.5 for Chop. All right, 2 games left here on the DFS OGs podcast. Next 2 should be fun. The afternoon slate is going to be crazy. A lot of 50-point totals here. Another one here, Tennessee traveling to Seattle. Kind of another tale of 2 teams. Chop, Tennessee, very disappointing, top to bottom. Tannehill, Henry, Julio, all terrible. A.J. Brown was average at best. Against that Arizona defense. Now you go out to Seattle, where Seattle looked good offensively. They got it done. So home favorites here, big total here, Chop. I'm a big Chris Carson guy in the spot against this Tennessee defense. I think he's one of the better running back plays of the week. Doesn't cost you a ton. Rashad Penny got dinged up. So again, it feels like a workhorse that's a little bit underpriced here. So give me Chris Carson here in DFS. Give me Seattle as well. I don't know that Tennessee's got it in them to bounce back in this one. So I'm going to take Seattle minus the points here. Chop, what do you got here in this one?
Yeah, I'm with you on Chris Carson. With Rashad Penny doubtful, probably not going to play, means he's going to be workhorse again, and we've seen him thrive in this role before. So definitely like some Chris Carson. But you got to like all the offense in this game. You got to like Metcalf too, and Lockett, I'm a little suspect on Lockett. Great week 1. If he's anything like he was last year, where he had 2 great weeks, and then, man, the vast majority of the other ones were just putrid. I'm a little leery on him, but I think Metcalf is in a pretty good spot here. For the Titans, I think they bounce back offensively. So you got to choose. I don't think you can go Derrick Henry and the passing game. So I'm going to choose the passing game here. I think the passing game thrives. I think Ryan Tannehill does well, gets it to A.J. Brown, a little bit of Julio Jones mixed in, maybe even see some Ferkser finally. So I'm all about the over here. I'm taking the over, the total on this game.
All right, little narrative here as well. A.J. Brown, DK Metcalf, old buddies here, Chop. So little correlation there on both sides. And, DK's generally been a better player at home. And you're right, Lockett spikes for these big games, and then let's not forget about Metcalf. So I really like him as well. I think you can stack up the Seattle offense. And the run it back for me is A.J. Brown on the other side, Derek. So Should be a fun game. Fireworks. Chop likes the over in this one. What are you doing here, Tennessee and Seattle?
Yeah, I don't have anything to add on the DFS side. I agree with you guys. Like AJ Brown, like Chris Carson. You could maybe mix in a little bit of Seattle defense with how bad the offensive line was for the Titans last week. And then my betting pick, man, I really want to take Seattle. But one thing we've learned about them over the years, they're always going to be in field goal games. They're always just going to be in it right in the fourth quarter. And they're going to be winning by one score. So I'm going to take the over. Even though I like Seattle more, I'm taking the over.
You're right. That's always the thing that makes you nervous about taking Seattle, because you're not wrong. They find a way to make games interesting, especially at home for some reason. So over for both you guys and Seattle. For me, last game on the docket might be the best one of the week. Dallas traveling out to the Chargers, Derek. Dallas almost pulled off the upset in Tampa. The offense looked incredible, led by Dak Prescott. Both Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb looked impressive. Michael Gallup goes on IR, so Cedric Wilson going to step into that spot. Do we do anything with Zeke here, though? I mean, trying to run Zeke against Tampa Bay, not wise, but he gets a better matchup here. Nobody's really going to want to play him. Everyone's going to want to play these pass catchers, which I like everybody in this game. Are you playing Zeke here? Chargers side, very impressive win going into Washington and getting it done on the back of Justin Herbert, Keenan Allen. Austin Eckler, 0 targets in that game, Derek. So is that something we're expecting to change in a big way here with this offense? So what do you got here? This one should be a fun way to end the day. Cowboys and Chargers.
Yeah, it should be a fun one. One of the bigger surprises of the week for me was Austin Eckler, 0 targets. So I think that's going to change. I don't think it's really a scheme or anything like that. Herbert just likes to throw the ball downfield. Tough matchup against Washington anyway. Love Keenan Allen in this one. Diggs is going to be on the outside against Williams and Guyton. So I think it's going to be a big day for Keenan Allen, 12 to 15 targets, something like that. And then Dallas side, do we know if Zach Martin's going to be back?
Chop, our resident Dallas
He should
expert.
be back, but probably going to be without Lyle Collins now.
Okay. Jeez, man, they always have one guy out, it seems like. Long term, I'm not worried about Zeke. They, like I said before, they didn't even try to run the ball against Tampa Bay. He still played 84% of the snaps. So I think he's going to be fine. But, the offensive line issues are a concern for him. Love CeeDee Lamb. He runs a lot of his routes from the slot, and he still led the team in air yards last week. So a lot of upside with him as well. You can play Amari. You can play Dak, obviously. So, I think the passing game is where I want to lean, but nobody's going to be playing Zeke.
Yeah, he's interesting in DFS. I don't quite like him to the level I like Najee Harris, Chris Carson, but definitely a guy that I'm going to keep it in my player pool. Love the receivers here, Chop. Lamb and Cooper, no Gallup. I mean, they're going to get that many more targets in a high-scoring game here. So I'm going to put my pick on the board here. I'm going with Dallas in this one. I think they win this game, so I'm going to gladly take the 2.5 points here. Yes, it's a tough matchup, but I think ultimately the Cowboys get it done here. So I have more interest on their side. And then you have the run it back options, whether it's Eckler, whether it's Keenan Allen, Mike Williams. I think there's a lot of ways to go in DFS in this one. But betting-wise, give me the Cowboys. Chop, finish it up here, Dallas and the Chargers.
Man, it's going to be a fun game. It's a tough way to start the year for Dallas with these games on the road, going to Florida, coming back home. Now you got to go to California, both the coast. You got to hit up there. That's not fun, but I'm a little worried because the Chargers defense is really good. The Chargers team in general right now, as constructed, when they're healthy, that's a Super Bowl type of team right there. So it's just a matter of can they stay healthy on defense. Right now they're healthy, so they're going to be really tough. And so I don't know. It kind of feels like I don't know how much exposure, but Dallas is one of those. If they're legitimately turning the keys over to Kellen Moore to call the plays on the sidelines or wherever he's going to be at in a box or whatever, then and his game plan, then they're going to be very, very tough to stop because he showed at Tampa Bay he wasn't about – Mike McCarthy would have been like, we got to run Zeke into the line and establish the run, and then we'll open it up with the pass. It doesn't work like that. Kellen Moore had a good game plan. If he's putting those game plans together every week, they're going to be tough to stop. So I don't know where it's going to go. There's a lot of weapons to go to on the Dallas side, and there's a lot of weapons for the Chargers. We didn't even see Keenan Allen that much. It was the Mike Williams show that week last week. This could be Keenan Allen. This could be Austin Eckler. This could be one of those third wide receivers or Jared Cook. So a lot of weapons all around. I don't know how to narrow it down right now. just get a piece of everybody, maybe go Dean 10% everybody here. But because of all that, and because I just think it's tough to stop these offenses, I got to take the over in this game.
All right, Derek, did you put a pick in here?
I'm going to take Dallas.
All right, Dallas for Derek. All right, so we ended up with 4 on the parlay card. So that's not terrible. Again, I wouldn't go too crazy with a 4-team parlay, but history has shown we've done pretty well outside of last week on these. So to recap, we have under 50.5 on Philadelphia and San Francisco. We like the Rams -4. We all like Cleveland at home -12.5. We all liked Pittsburgh at home -5.5. So that will do it here for week 2, guys. Remember, go and support the sponsor FanDuel. Tons of offerings in the lobby, the sportsbook, the casino, lots of stuff you can do. Single game parlays are a lot of fun. And make sure you guys submit your entry to our tournament, the DFS OGs tournament over on FanDuel at FanDuel.com/OG. A chance to play against us, a weekly tournament, only $7 single entry, and cash prizes at the end. All the information you need is on that landing page, FanDuel.com/OG. Guys, any final words for the people here? The chat, very active today, so love to see it here in the afternoon. So thank you for all your guys' questions. Best of luck to everybody this week. Chop, final thoughts here, week 2.
Yeah, we're gonna bounce back here. We're gonna bounce back this week. I can feel it. This is what happens in DFS. You have bad weeks, you have good weeks, but this is gonna be a good week. I would say for you guys, if you're not following our Twitter link, the DFS OGs podcast at DFS OGs pod, get on there, because if you're looking for a shortcut to get into the tournament, the links are going to be there. It's much easier than maybe trying to remember, the FanDuel link or whatever, or trying to find it on Rotogrinder. Just go to Twitter and look up our Twitter handle, and you'll get the link there. We'll post it out like we just did. So find a way to get in, man. Spread the word, please. Let's fill this thing up this week.
Let's do it. 500 entries only. So get it in there. Come play against us, and we'll shout you out if you do well. Hell, we may even have some people joining the show later in the year as they're doing well. So a lot of reasons to get in that tournament, but mainly supporting the sponsor of the show is the best way to support our show and what we're doing. So appreciate that in advance, everybody. No, final thoughts here for the people, week 2.
Yeah, got to give a shout out to the chat. They were awesome today. If you're listening to the podcast feed, we plan to go live every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern time. So if you want to hop on the YouTube live, join the chat, do that next week. And then just rewind 1 week. We thought we knew everything about these teams, and we clearly didn't. And now everyone thinks they're going to know everything about these teams after a 1 week sample size, and that's just not how it works. So don't be afraid to get a little different. Go back to the guys that didn't perform well last week, and maybe fade some of those guys that you don't think you're going to be able to, have that staying power. So good luck, everybody. Let's bounce back. It can't be worse than week 1.
Yep, nailed it. Week 2, always a fun one, overreaction theater here. So for Notorious, for Head Shopper, I am Beer saying salut. We are the DFS OGs. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next week.